Hello, welcome to Radar Academy. Today, we are going to continue with accounting for overhead. So today we have one question on accounting for overheads, and we are going to solve and explain how to apportion overheads. So this is a very simple question, and I'll read, then we solve together. Abinga Limited has three production departments, A, B, and C, and one service department, D. The cost budget for the year ending 31st December 2023 are as follows. Factory rent 10,000, plant repairs 6,000, property rate 2,000, plant depreciation 12,000, insurance of buildings 16,800, power 7,750, supervision 24,000, indirect wages for A is 6,000, B is 4,000, and C is 3,000, and D is 2,000. Information related to the production and service department in the factory is as follows. We have the departments A, B, and C, and D. Said floor area is 150 for A, 110 is for B, 90 is for C, 50 is for D, which is the service department. Value of plant is 2,400 for production department A, 2,000 for department B, 1,000 for department C, and 600 for department D. The horsepower is 144 for A, 256 for B, 124 for C, and 96 for D. It said required, show how the overheads would be apportioned to all the departments. It's very simple. So what all the question is trying to say is, you've been given some overheads and they are asking you to find the overheads for each department. So what you need to do is you have to apportion this overhead. That is the factory rent, plant repairs. These are the overheads. And they are saying that all these departments are entitled to these overheads and they need you to apportion them to various departments. And they've given you some information. That is the basis for apportionment. And the basis for apportionment, we have three. That is the floor area, we have the value of plant, and we have the horsepower. With this question, the question is not telling you to use this for you to use this, but then it's up to you for you to know that, okay, for this overheads, I have to use this basis for apportionment. For example, the factory rent, when you look at these three, floor area, the value of plant, and horsepower, if you want to apportion factory rent, the appropriate basis for apportionment to be what? The floor area. Very, very simple. So let's start. So we prepare do this on the overhead analysis sheet. So we have our overhead analysis sheet. And we have here to be the overheads. Then here will be our, let's say here will be, okay, to make it very simple, let me make here departments so that you can see the calculations very well. Then we make here department B. So here will be Ghana cedis. Here will also be Ghana cedis. Then let's move to the next page to also write department C here and department D. I'm doing it this way so you can see the calculations clearly. You can see the calculations clearly. Okay. Okay, so let's move back to the question. So we will start with you. So when we look at the question very well, we can see that we have indirect wages indirect wages. You can decide to bring it first or you can decide to bring it last. Any of them is still right. So I would prefer to bring it first. So with the indirect wages, you could see that they've given you the indirect wages for A, B, and C. So this one is what we call the allocation. We can attribute this indirect wages to the specific department. So these ones, you are just allocating them to the department. That is the allocation. Only one department. That is the allocation. But when you look at the factory rent, and they did not say this is for this. That is why they are giving you the basis for apportionment for you to do apportionment. So we start with the indirect wages. We start with the indirect wages. So with the indirect wages, we have 6,000 for A, 4,000 for B, and C. Sorry. So here I write indirect wages. And here for C, we have 3,000. And D, we have 2,000. Now let's start with the factory rent. So one thing that you have to do is when it comes to the reapportionment, let's do that calculation here. When it comes to the reapportionment, what you have to do is the basis for apportionment, you find the total floor area. You get it? You find the total floor area. So the total floor area to total floor area will be the floor area for department A, which is what, 150, and the floor area for department B, which is 110, plus the department C, which is 90, plus what, department D, which is what, 50. So when we add all these, we have our total floor area to be 400. We have our total floor area to be what, 400. Now we move to the total. So that is how we do the apportionment. You first need to find the total of the basis for apportionment. So the total value of the plant. The value plant for A is 2,400 and B is 2,000. And C is 1,000. And D is what? 600. So when you add all this, you get 6,000. You have 6,000. Then the last one is the total horsepower. So we have 144 for A, and we have 256 for B, and we have 124 for C, and we have 96 for D. The total is 620. So the first thing that you need to do is to find the total. So after getting the totals, then now you move to your apportionment. So now let's. So for factory rent, this is how you do the apportionment. You pick the floor area. We are going to, the basis for apportionment for the factory rent is what's the floor area. We are going to apportion the factory rent based on the floor area. So what we do is you find the floor area for department A divided by the total floor area of the company times the factory rent, the amount of the factory rent. So the floor area for department A is what? 150. So 150 divided by 400 times the factory rent. The cost of the factory rent is 10,000. It's 10,000. So when you cancel this, you have 3,700 and what? 50. Then you come to department B. Department B, the floor area for department B is 110. It's 110. So 110 divided by the total floor area, which is 400, times the amount of factory rent, which is what? 10,000. So when you cancel this, you have 2,700 and what? 50. Then we move to department C. The floor area for department C is 90. So 90 divided by 400 times 10,000 will give us 2,200 and what? 50. Then the floor area for department B, D, is 50. So 50 divided by 400 times 10,000 will give us 1,200 and what? 50. So it means when we add 1,250, 2,250, and when you add 2,750 and 3,750, we need to get what? 10,000. If we add these four figures and you're not getting 10,000, then it means there is a mistake somewhere. So let's move to the next overhead. The next overhead is plant repairs. So with the plant repairs, we can see that we will use the value of plant as the basis for apportionment, apportioning the plant repairs. So we pick the value of plant of department A, which is 2,400. So 2,400 divided by the total value of plant, which is 6,000, times the total cost of the plant repairs. The value of plant repairs is what? 6,000. So we multiply it by the costs, 6,000. So this we will get, when you cancel this, we have 2,400. We move to the department B. Department B is 2,000 divided by 6,000 times 6,000. With this one, we will get 2,000. Then we move to the next one, which is department C. Department C, the value of the plant is 1,000. So 1,000 divided by 6,000 times 1,000 will give us, times 6,000 will give us 1,000. Then the last one is 600. So 600 divided by 6,000 times 6,000 will give us 600. Then we move to the next one, which is the property rate. So with the property rate, we are going to use the floor area as the basis for apportionment, because looking at what they've given us as the basis for apportionment. Among the three, the floor area will be the best, will be the appropriate one, portion property rate. So the floor area for department is 150. So 150 divided by 400 times the cost of the property rate. Cost of the property rate is 2,000. So 2,000. And when you cancel this, you get 750. The next is 110 over 400 times 2,000, which will be 550. The floor area for department C is 90. So 90 over the total floor area, which is 400, times the cost of the property rate. Cost of the property rate is 2,000. So when you cancel this, you will get 450. Then we move to department D. 50 over 400 times 2,000, which will give us 250. Now we move to the next overhead, which is the insurance building. So looking at the insurance building, the appropriate basis for apportionment is what? Floor area. So insurance building. The floor area for A is 150 over 400 times the value of the insurance building, which is, okay, sorry, we need to do the, okay, no problem. We can still do the insurance building before we come back to the plant depreciation. So let's continue with that. So that will be 16,000. Is it 16,000? 16,800. 16,800. And that will give us 6,300. Then we move to department B, which is 110 divided by 400 times 16,800, which will also give us 4,620. Then we move to department C, which is 90 over 400 times 16,800, which will also give us 3,780. And the last one, 50 over 400 times 16,800, which will also give us 2,100. Then now let's move to the plant depreciation. Plant depreciation. So looking at the plant depreciation, the cost of the plant depreciation. Among the basis for apportionment, the appropriate one will be the value of the plant. The value of the plant. So the value of the plant for department E is 2,400 divided by the total, which is what? 6,000, times the cost of the plant depreciation, which is 12,000. So 12,000. When we cancel this, we have 4,800. Then we move here, we have 2,000, which is the value of plant for department B, divided by the total value of the plant, times 12,000. 12,000 is the cost of the plant depreciation. So when we cancel this, we have 4,000. Then we move to department. Thousand divided by 6,000 times 12,000, which will give us 2,000. Then we have 600.
$6,000 times 12,000, and that will give us 1,200. And the last, sorry, we have power, so that is the penultimate, which is power. Power. So with the power, it is obvious that you are going to use the horsepower as the basis for apportionment for power, the cost of power. So the basis for apportionment, the horsepower for E is 144 divided by the total horsepower, which is 620, times the cost of the power, which is 7750. Then that will give us 1,800. Then we move to the next one, which is the 256 divided by 620 by 7750, which will also give us 3,200. Then let's move to the next one, which is 124 divided by 620 times 7750, which would also give us 11550. Then we move to the next one, which is 96. 96 divided by 620 times 7750, which will give us 1,200. Okay, so you should also don't just be looking at it, you should also be punching to make sure the figures are right. Then let's move to the last one, which is the last one is supervision. So with this one, I'll try and do all here. Supervision. So supervision, we have department A, we have department B, we have department C, and we have department D. So with the supervision, the appropriate basis for apportionment to use is the floor area. That is the floor area that the supervisor is going to cover is what you are going to use to apportion the supervision cost. So department A, first, so the floor area for department A is what? 150. So 150 divided by 400 times the cost of the supervision. The cost of the supervision is 2400. That is 2,000. Sorry, that is 24,000. 24,000. So that'll give us 9,000 for department A. Then we move to department B, which is 110 divided by 400 times 24,000. And that'll give us 6,600. Then we move to department C, which is 90 over 400 times 24,000. And that will give us 5,400. Then we move to the last part, which is 50 over 400 times 24,000. And that will also give us 3,000. So that is it. This is the apportionment. This is the apportionment that we are talking about. So this is how to do apportionment. Just find the basis for apportionment, find the total basis for apportionment. You pick one department basis for apportionment divided by the total times the total value of the overhead cost given. That is simple. So after that, we want to know the total overheads for each department. So what we have to do is we add the factory rent for department A, plant repairs for department A, property rates for department E. So we add this, and this, and this. Then we add the supervision to get the total value for total overhead cost for department A. We do same for department B. Then we get the total overheads for department B, and we do same for department C and D. So when we are adding all this for department A, we will have a total of, let me use a different color to write. Okay, I was finding my color. So when we add the total value for department A, you have a total value. So total overheads. So for department A, you have 28,800. Then for department B, so this one is supposed to be, so we have 27720. Then for department C, we have 30. Four, 3, 0. Then department D, we have 1. Okay, so these are the total values for each department. So this is all about the apportionment. Very, very simple. So in my next video, I'll be teaching you how to do the reapportionment. So you see, this D is a service department. So for you to know the true value of the total overhead cost for the production department, we need to reapportion this amount of overhead cost, which is assigned or apportioned to the service department. So this 11,600, we need to reapportion them to the A, B, and C. So in the question, they are going to give you a percentage that you are going to use to reapportion this 11,600 to the production department. So it depends on the question. If the question has only one service department, then you do that. But if the question has 2 service departments, you have to reapportion the overhead cost that you've apportioned to the service department. You need to reapportion those costs, overhead costs, to the production department to get the real total overheads for the production department. But then in this question, they did not ask, they just asked to do apportionment. So in my next video, I'll be bringing a question where we are going to reapportion the overhead cost of the service department to the production department after we are done with the apportionment. So subscribe like and share, put in your comments, and also click on the notification bell. When this new video is uploaded, you'll be the first to be notified. Bye bye. See you in my next video.